next speaker is Jing Shen from Takeda. Please.
Okay, good afternoon. So we have heard quite a lot of mentions of Takeda's vaccine this morning. So in my presentation, I will be talking about the tool, so namely the model we have developed at Takeda to help support kind of vaccine access across different countries that need the vaccine most. So I will be mainly talking about the model we have and why it's so important to have models specific for the location of interest to estimate dengue disease burden, as well as how we can inform policy in terms of finding the optimal vaccination strategy. So the usual disclosure. So in terms of content, I'm going to go through a brief overview of what Takeda's dengue modeling approach is. And then we'll go into some specifics on the methodology, as well as how this model has been applied for Thailand as a case study, and then my conclusion. So the methodology and the application part have been published in the paper that I put here. So if you want to have more details, you know, it's a long paper, so I will take some time to read, but if you want more details, it's there. So here is the overview of our modeling approach. So I wanted to start with dengue endemic countries, how they actually look in terms of dengue burden. We all know that dengue is endemic in a lot of Asia-Pacific countries, as well as Latin American countries, and also it's spreading into more northern countries. So we did a targeted review of dengue incidence across some of those known dengue countries, as also you know that dengue data, incidence data sometimes can be quite scarce to obtain. So these are the ones that we have found. So as you can see, although they are all dengue endemic, the disease burden vary quite significantly across different countries, even with very similar seroprevalence. So the numbers in the brackets indicate SP9 in those countries. As you can see, they demonstrate quite a large difference, significant difference across different age groups. Some countries have a significant peak in the very young. Some have kind of peaks in the kind of younger adolescents. And there are also countries like Brazil, the dengue burden is rather, there's no kind of pronounced peak, but it's quite flat across the older and younger and older age groups. So because of this, our approach really is to make sure that we want to accurately model the dengue burden specific for the location of interest, because our goal is to help support dengue vaccine assessment to support, inform the vaccine implementation and vaccine program design. Therefore, what we have done is to use a deterministic SIR model to estimate disease burden and inform vaccination strategy. Our vaccine efficacy is the inputs are based on our DAN 301 trial per standard HTA approach. So this is a very brief overview of the model. So it models all four serotypes. The model is age structures, as we've just seen that the dengue burden is very specific across different age groups in the population, so it needs to be age structured. We also specifically model, explicitly model vector population with seasonality. Also, the false infection, therefore, is serotype and age specific. And also, as standards, we take into account that dengue natural history. So, for example, secondary is more severe compared to the other order of infection. And as I specified, that our model is fitted to country-specific age-specific incidence data. So I'm just going to go through the methodology in a bit more details, but given the limited time, I really hope I don't run over. I won't go into too much details. So in terms of the host infection process, so it's the standard susceptible to exposed, infectious, cross-protected, and then immune. So this is done for every serotype. And for every single age. So that means we did from age 0 to age 100, we did 101 different age cohorts. And then this is also done for 3 different vaccination status. So vaccinated as seronegative, vaccinated as seropositive, plus not vaccinated. So it's a compartmental model, very complex, modeling the host through different stages. In terms of our severity structure, again, it's relatively standard. So we looked at when you are becoming infected, you could be asymptomatic, also symptomatic, but it's either symptomatic hospitalized or symptomatic non-hospitalized. We assume that if you are symptomatic but not hospitalized, then you are going to have mild dengue outcome. But if you're symptomatic and also hospitalized, we looked at either you can be severe or still can be mild, but hospitalized. Within severe, you can also have fatal and non-fatal outcomes. So essentially, we're assuming the fatal outcomes can only come from the severe hospitalized cases. So the probability of these are informed by the different infection types, so whether it's primary, secondary, or post-secondary. So the demographic processes, we assumed a stable demographics, so that's kind of, remember Henrik's presentation earlier this morning, that obviously the demographics are changing at the moment. What we did was obviously use a more simplified approach, and this is kind of standard. And also, our models are kind of a simplified version of the real world. So I think given the kind of evolving demographics, the model might even underestimate the disease burden. And just wanted to mention that the death is not considered in the model itself because dengue-related deaths can be negligible in terms of changing the population dynamics. We also, as I said, explicitly modeled the vectors population because they are quite, very, very short life expectancy. So we assume they can only be infected by one serotype in their lifetime, and only adult female mosquitoes were modeled. I'm just going to quickly go through these. So we did a good fit matrix to see how the model is fitting. And we have a long burn-in period for the model. So we ran the model for 650 years as a burn-in period for the model to equilibrate. And then we ran the model for another 100 years and to compare the predicted versus the observed cases until the log likelihood is no longer improving to assess the model fit. Then, as I mentioned earlier, our vaccine efficacy comes from the clinical trial, so our phase 3 trial. My colleagues are going to be talking about this a bit more in details, I think, in tomorrow's session. So I'm not going to go into details, but specifically, we looked at hospitalized VCD and non-hospitalized VCD. Hospitalized VCD, based on our observation in the trial, we assume there's no waning for the hospitalization. The vaccine works really well to protect very severe type of disease. And in terms of non-hospitalized VCD, we did see waning over time in our 4.5 years follow-up. So we did a power function to extrapolate that over time. We also observed some protection against asymptomatic infections, so we assume that to be half of the non-hospitalized VCD. Another kind of innovative addition to our model compared to previous models is that we applied natural boosting in our non-hospitalized VCD efficacy. I think some of the speakers and also questions mentioned about natural boosting happens in the natural world, and we believe this boosting of immunity could also happen when a breakthrough infection occurs in vaccinated individuals. So what we did was that, as you remember from the previous slide, that for non-hospitalized VCD efficacy, you'll be on that waning curve, starting from once you are fully vaccinated, and then you will be going down over time. If you do have a breakthrough infection, then your immunity from vaccination will be boosted to the top of the curve if you're vaccinated seropositive, and if you're seronegative when you are vaccinated, then you will be moving on to the seropositive vaccine efficacy curve. So that's how we will apply that in the model. Very briefly, we also did the cost-effectiveness analysis. This is how we classified the costs as well, so what the payer and the societal perspectives are. So now it's the application of our Thailand case study. We used, as I say, our model adaptations are country-specific. So what we spend quite a lot of efforts is to make sure that our model matches the observed epidemiology in that particular location of interest. So everything is country-specific as far as we can do. The specific objective is, first of all, to determine what's the optimal vaccination strategy that based on Thai-specific disease burden. So we explored 3 sets of vaccination strategies at 80% coverage at standard over 20-year time horizon. And then secondly, we also looked at a more kind of a pragmatic strategy. I think one of the speakers mentioned earlier this morning that vaccine doesn't equal to vaccination. So how can we have as much uptake of vaccine into people's arms as possible? So we looked at a more of a pragmatic strategy to coordinate TAC-03 with existing NIP vaccination in Thailand to hopefully, potentially can increase the coverage of the vaccine uptake. So that's a pragmatic strategy we looked at. So that will be aged at 11 with 87% coverage based on NIP of HPV vaccination in Thailand, also over a 20-year time horizon. So here is very briefly to show how well our model fitted. As you can see, they observed against the predicted incidence are almost identical on the top left-hand corner. So that's for the incidence. And also with our model, we also predicted the seroprevalence at age, I think that's age 11. It's about 59%. It's also within the range of seroprevalence data for Thailand. And at the bottom is the prediction against observed of sentinelity. And as you can see, it's not exactly identical, but it's quite well fit as well. So this is our baseline without vaccination. So this really represents the disease burden in Thailand. So majority of the incidents and the cases are around young adolescents, and they are representing majority of the secondary infections. And also the bottom shows the predicted serotype distributions over the time horizon we looked at. And because dengue serotype distributions are very unpredictable, so in the model we are not forcing any particular dominance. So over time it's kind of equally distributed. So this is the first objective we looked at. What is the optimal vaccination strategy for Thailand? It's purely based on the Thai epidemiology. So the top one is the outcome if we are interested in preventing symptomatic cases overall. The bottom line shows if we are more interested in preventing hospitalized VCD. So they look quite similar. I think the general kind of trend is that sorry, I should also explain the 3 main strategies we looked at. So we looked at routine only, so that's only 1 age cohort. We also looked at the 2 catch-up cohort, vaccination strategy with catch-up cohorts. So the middle one is catch-up with 5 years. The last one is with a catch-up of 10-year cohort, so it's a very large catch-up program. So the general trend is that the more your vaccination cohort size, the younger you should start with your routine vaccination. That's where you can have the maximum impact with the vaccination, with the available vaccination. Then this is the programmatic strategy, as I mentioned. If we are thinking more in terms of what's more realistic to have a higher uptake. So this is vaccinating at age 11, regardless of the Thai epidemiology. It's really just to increase the uptake together with HPV vaccine already existing in the national program. So as you can see, it does have a good impact over time, especially on hospitalized dengue cases. That shows also over time how the different outcomes might show, also given the different coverage rate at the bottom right-hand corner, and the bottom left-hand corner, it shows the vaccine's impact on directly vaccinated individuals, as well as the indirect effects, because obviously vaccination reduces transmission, so also have indirect effects on the people, on the broader population, the people who are not receiving the vaccination. We also have, obviously, we don't eliminate dengue, so there are also residual cases remaining. We also did a number of sensitivity analysis, just looked at how robust our results are. So the gray bar is the base case, as I said earlier, based on all the different assumptions, and the top one is the symptomatic VCD avoided, the bottom one is hospitalized. We looked at a number of scenarios, for example, without the boosting assumption. Also, we looked at the different levels of efficacy assumptions. So largely, I think the picture shows that it's relatively robust in terms of our baseline estimation. Lastly, it's about the cost effectiveness. Very quickly, so the top graph really shows the different variety of from small to large cohort of vaccination strategy we looked at, and the bottom table shows the programmatic vaccination strategy of vaccinating at age 11. So the overall picture is that vaccine, regardless of what perspective you are taking, whether if it's only just the payer's perspective or societal perspective, the vaccine is highly cost-saving. So obviously, the vaccine reduces DALYs. At the same time, using vaccination is actually saving, the overall total cost is actually less compared to do nothing. So this is really very positive to look at how the impact could potentially be. This is my last slide on the conclusions from our modeling work. So as I mentioned at the beginning, I think everybody in the audience also experts in dengue, so dengue is very complex. So the dengue burden across different population really varies from location to location, even with the same seroprevalence. Therefore, any potential modeling of dengue and the interventions impact needs to be location-specific, needs to really fit within the dengue epidemiology of that particular location of interest. So that's what we did to try to reflect the real dengue burden of that location when we want to inform how we can implement interventions in that particular location. So our approach really is to model dengue and the dengue vaccination to inform location-specific disease burden, as well as how we can maximize the vaccination impact. So therefore, we applied age-specific incidence to fit the model compared to many of the previous modeling of dengue that's fit to seroprevalence, as we saw earlier in the graph, that even with the same seroprevalence, you might have a very different disease burden across the population. We also applied the natural boosting into our model to reflect the boosted immunity among vaccinees. So this kind of a model and our approach has been applied to support vaccine strategy in several countries, for example, Brazil and Peru. Some of my colleagues will be talking about further data coming through. So we also have lots of real-world data and effectiveness data coming through. So we are intending to update our model inputs to reflect this new data. So with that, I would like to acknowledge the co-authors and the collaborators in this work that's been published recently, and also welcome very many questions. Thank you.